I'm going to have all of you introduce yourselves because you can obviously speak about yourself and your work better than I can. So, Ali, I'll start with you.
Cool. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Ali Rez. I'm the Chief Creative Officer for Impact BBDO. I'm based in Dubai, but I look after the Middle East, North Africa, and Pakistan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hi there, my name is Melissa Tony Stiers, and I have actually two hats that I'm wearing these days. I am the founding partner and Chief Global Growth Officer for MIA AI, which stands for Mission Impact Academy. We have a mission to empower 1 million women with the skills of AI by 2030. And I also recently stepped into a very special role to my heart. I am the CEO of the Fundamental Wellbeing Foundation, where we are really helping to create a more peaceful world with providing tools and resources. And I'm so happy to be here. I'm from Orlando, Florida, sunny Orlando, Florida to sunny Cannes. So I'm very happy to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Mahima Kukreja. I'm a creative technologist from India. I'm here for the C8B8 program, which is a female leadership accelerator by CANS. And I'm also the founder of Feel Fuzzy, which is a mental health platform that provides affordable and affirmative therapy to young adults, especially queer kids.
Hi everybody, I'm Anupama Ramaswamy. I'm the Chief Creative Officer for Havas India. And I'm extremely happy to be here because I was here last year also. And Stuti invited me, and I'm happy to talk about emotion, advertising, and considering just won the first Cannes Gold Lion for India. Yes. And 2 bronzes right now. So extremely excited. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Tutu Laditan. I am based in Lagos, Nigeria. I had a career at Google for 10 years. I used to head YouTube from a marketing standpoint in sub-Saharan Africa. And now I am part of a team called Woof Studios. And we focus on empowering the creator ecosystem. So my company, for the first time, brought African creators to Cannes. Here they are. Woohoo! Some of my creators coming in.
Welcome.
Nice.
And we spoke at the Cannes stage, talking at the creator rooftop about the digital economy. And so I'm excited to be here as well.
I am so honored to be on a panel with all of you. Everyone is so extremely accomplished and intelligent, but I feel like Anupama, we're here to talk about connection. I'm going to go a little off script with your Lions wins. Is there anything about the content that won you, the gold and the 2 bronzes, that you feel like really drove engagement and connection? Is there anything you want to talk about as it relates to that work?
Oh, I would love to.
Great.
Actually, all 3 have been won for the same piece. It's called The Ink of Democracy. It's for Times of India, and it is the largest newspaper of India. Now, what we did was the Election Commission of India gave us the task to drive people to vote. And in India, what happens is while the people below the poverty line definitely go and vote, the educated ones are the ones who do not vote. And it's very sad because they think it's a holiday, right? And it is extremely hot in India during those months of May, June, and to push people out of the house to say that please go and cast your vote. I know it's hot. I know you have to stand in a line, but please do your duty. So what we did was we just took a data point and we converted it. What was the data point? In the previous election, 7,500 liters of electoral ink was left unused. What is electoral ink? It's only in India that you'll find that after a person casts their vote, they put a purple ink on your finger just so that there is no duplication. Because people can be paid money to go and vote again and again and again because we are not an extremely first world type of country, right? So, but that much electoral ink got wasted because people did not go and vote. So what Times of India did was it printed pages of Times of India in purple ink one day before the election in each city, Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, to tell people that if you do not get up and go and vote, this is what is going to happen, and it'll affect the democracy. And we actually created a Guinness record of 649 million voters because of that.
Congratulations. Wow. That's truly phenomenal. Mahima, we talked a little bit about data there and what you did in order to bring that narrative together. How do you blend technology with storytelling to drive impact and connection?
Yeah. We've been really talking about AI a lot last few months, I know. spoke about it recently at the Spikes panel as well. So technology is a tool for us, right? It helps you connect better with your audience, and when used right, it creates a bigger impact. To give you one example, there's one of the campaigns that I did for Tata for Lodi, which is a festival in Punjab. And during the festival, we sing these folk songs, which are called tappe, right? It's centuries-old tradition. We dance around the bonfire, we sing tappas. And those tappas have always been about two things: your wedding and your child. So we only celebrate like, oh, you've just gotten married or you've just had a first baby. But there's more to life than just these two occasions, right? What is your role outside of marriage and having children? Why don't we celebrate you having a great crop yield? Why don't we celebrate the daughter buying her own house? Why don't we celebrate a new job, right? It could be anything, any of the milestone occasions that goes beyond what is expected of patriarchy. So that's where technology came in. We were able to create this hyper-personalized tappas because during Lodi, we send each other greetings on WhatsApp. And we created this music video which now allowed you to celebrate new occasions. So these folk songs that have never existed for hundreds of years suddenly existed because of the tech we used, and we were able to hyper-personalize it to a member of your family and to an occasion you wanted to add, to your Lodi celebrations for years to come. So that's how culturally relevant connection with consumers can be brought to life through technology.
It's amazing. And Ali, we're just talking a little bit about, obviously, cultural connection, moments in life. You've done a lot of purpose-driven campaigns. How do you bring through storytelling? Melissa, I'd love your point of view on this with all the work that you're doing in mental health. How do you bring that, drive impact with purposeful storytelling to still build on strategic business goals?
I think the driving word behind that is authenticity, and right behind that is relevancy. I think both those things together, when you combine them, you have the ability to find the stories to tell. I can take an example of something we did in Pakistan a few years ago, which was purpose-based. It was for a commercial client. It was for a client that was selling paints, and we picked a form of art that's very relevant to just Pakistan. It's called truck art. You paint the back of trucks with portraits of army generals or sports stars. And we said, look, instead of these portraits, why don't we paint the portraits of children who are missing? And because these trucks travel all over the country. Now there's the relevancy for the form of art, and then the authenticity came from using actual real children's portraits, and we ended up locating 8 missing children because of that campaign.
Wow.
Over the course of 3 months. So over the course of
Only
3
in
months.
3 months?
Only in 3 months.
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
So there was a dedicated number at the back, and that was linked. So that's how we knew that those are the links. And I think within those individual portraits, there was a story told for each one of those children, and so authentic and very relevant. Everybody resonated and connected to it, and it worked.
That's unbelievable. Phenomenal work. Melissa, obviously there's not an easy transition from missing children to. Yes, no, that's how I feel. But for the work that you're doing, how are you? You're obviously CEO, Chief Growth Officer. You have these large titles, so you're still driving strategic goals while also battling the ongoing things like mental health and other issues that plague all of our cultures and economies. So talk to me a little bit how you balance those two.
Yeah, first, again, this panel is amazing, the diversity that's been pulled together and in the room. Like, what an honor to be with these rock stars, and it's amazing. Something about my biography or bio is I'm also a certified protocol officer. So I have led about 60 delegations to over 35 countries all around the world. I've met with kings and queens, emirs, sultans. They are not just in the movie Aladdin, they're real. Did a 40th anniversary for the Sultan of Oman. And that is something that I like to share because as we move into this new age of technology, you were saying that AI, you know, there's AI panels all over the place. It's AI, and that would be my tattoo, would be AI if she asked the panel before. No, actually it would be joy. I give joy. But the importance is right now in terms of what we're doing is the end of the day, a protocol officer deals with respect and honor of cultures. Like respect and honor of who you're meeting with, who you're talking to, who you're going to meet with. Everything boils down to respect. And I think that when you are bridging the gap between technology and an organization, in a political campaign, in a new position, and to your team that's scared and nervous, the most important thing you can do is approach it with respect. There are so many people that are terrified of the technology. They're terrified of the Terminator coming in. They're terrified of losing their job. And so the best thing you can do is take a moment, have empathy, and step into that role as, you know, your own protocol officer, as somebody that respects who they're dealing with, whether it be a child in K through 12 or whether it be an elderly folks home that you're trying to do a special training for them, and then especially in diverse communities that maybe and do not normally have access to this kind of technology, which is what we try to do at MIA AI. We try to democratize AI learning for everyone.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you for that rundown. Tutu, Ali talked a little bit about immersive storytelling, right, with the back of the trucks and activation. So often we're talking about digital marketing, right, or experiential marketing. What role do you think that film and other immersive platforms play in driving tangible action for these purpose-led campaigns we've been talking about?
Sure. Okay, so first and foremost, we're in I think it's attention deficit or attention lacking generation. Right, and when I think about goals and storytelling, I think sometimes we focus on numbers, like telling complex stories, but it's very important to think about visual and digital storytelling right now. Yeah. Like, how do you use short films, right, animation, documentaries to engage with an audience that has the attention of a goldfish, 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. And then thinking about what we do with the platforms themselves, right? I work with creators a lot, right? And I feel like they have communities. There's a creator here who has 2 million people following her. This one's hit 1 million on TikTok. People follow people because they trust them. So how do we also work with creators and influencers who probably do better at storytelling because they already understand the community, they know what the community wants, and they have cultural nuances and things that are very relatable to some of those issues and topics we want to address, right? So how do we work with them to empower better storytelling, especially with millennials and Gen Z? And so when I think about immersive storytelling, I'm thinking holistically. I'm so sorry about that. I'm thinking holistically about how we use like AR and VR experiences to take people to places they would never really have gone to, right, in multiple ways. How we use social voices of influencers to actually convey the message in a more relatable way. I'm thinking holistically about gamification. It's big. Some of the biggest creators in the world are gamers. I'm like, how do these guys make millions? But they're gaming, right? And I was a judge last year at the Cannes Festival, and with the gamification category, I live in Nigeria. It's not a gaming society, but I could see how complex issues were addressed with gamification. Like Heineken and a few other brands were doing things to address social issues. Gamers had to pause to do something, right? Talk about climate change. I'm like, in a game, right? So it's really thinking about how these new technologies are empowering more of the social issues to be addressed and giving voices to everyone. Yeah.
You touched on so much there. I'm the president of an influencer agency, and I couldn't agree with you more. One, you said that everyone has such a short attention span. I call it option paralysis, right? Consumers, I think we also always have to remember as marketers too, we're consumers as well, right? So when we go to engage with content or we go to make a buying decision, what do we want to see? How do we want to feel, right, in that? And I do think creators lend such a unique storytelling perspective, the authenticity that can come with working with creators. So thank you for touching on that. Anupama, we pivoted a little bit to creators, but kind of coming back to this option paralysis, media cluttered world. What do you think? Is there a secret ingredient to having a campaign feel like seen to felt? Is there something that's there to really drive that connection in anything you've seen or have done?
See, I think come what may, whether it is 6 seconds or a minute or a 3-hour movie like in India, it's all about the content. What are we saying? What is the message? And how do you say that story? In the most interesting manner, in the most engaging manner, in such a way that it touches you, at least, even if you don't feel a part of that story, or even if you think that this has never happened to me, it should feel so genuine, which is what Ali was saying, authentic. It needs to transfer that authenticity from whatever the messaging is and the touch point to the person who's watching it or consuming it. And that's all that matters. If that connection, that little unseen, invisible connection is made between the screen and the person, you're home.
Mahima, I'm going to read from this because I'm going to use your words. But you've said that creativity, and building on what Anupama just said, that creativity should reflect the world that we live in. How do you ensure that your work mirrors that reality, but also challenges it in ways that are bold and inclusive and emotionally driving?
Yeah. See, I have always said this, that creativity for me is the pursuit of truth, right? A lot of people think that marketing and advertising is about selling a product and doing this and doing that. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're connecting between two different things. That's the connection that you have to build. And how do you build that connection? You leverage the truth. So it's really about when the consumer, when the audience can see themselves reflected in that. And the communication can be different, right? It's you've done something through AI, or you've created a film, you've created a social campaign, you're doing an influencer-led work, you're doing gamification. As long as you have been able to establish that truth and they see themselves mirrored in it, you're home. Yeah. And that does the job for you. Yeah.
I love that. Ali, you've done so much powerful work. Is there any campaign that's really stayed with you and really reminds you and hopefully the broader world, like why creativity really matters?
Yeah, it's hard to pick, actually. I got to
Give
say
us a
I'm
few.
Very blessed to have a very wonderful team to work with. Look, we have a client in Lebanon that we work with. We've been working with for the last 7 years now, a Nahar newspaper, and very much
I love
like
the
it.
work that
Oh, thank you.
Nahar
Thanks.
does.
But what's really amazing about them is that they're a dream client in every aspect because they're very brave and they look for work that not only connects with the audience on a very deep emotional level, but also stuns them in its language, in its approach, in its execution. We've done a number of campaigns with them. Just recently, we did one last year where Lebanon was faced with a situation where they hadn't, parliament elects a president, and they hadn't elected one for 2 years, and for various reasons I won't get into, but they didn't have a president for 2 years, so we said, okay, what we'll do is An-Nahar has existed for 90 years in the country, so we'll take all the editions they've ever printed, and we'll scan them, feed them into an LLM, and actually built the world's first functioning AI president of a country. And that was not only just cosmetic, it was used by the cabinet in the cabinet session. So it's the world's first instance of a machine giving output on what foreign policy should be, what domestic policy should be, based on the journalism provided by this brand over the last 90 years. And for the good of the country, of course. That's been their purpose all along. So when you talk about purpose, especially related to business, I mean, this has done very remarkably well for them because it's helped them build their business and connect it to their audiences in a different manner. But also it sends a very powerful signal. I would bet that the world will see many more examples of AI heads of state, or at least advisors in governments. I can point out a lot of countries that definitely need it right now.
Yeah.
Could
you send it to us in the States?
Yeah. but it would be amazing, right? Because because it would be amazing to see what AI looks at what's happening in the world. It knows what the right decision is because it's unbiased. It's unbiased. It's non-political. It will choose what is best for that decision, and that's something that we're very proud of, and that's done very well.
Rightfully so.
Can I add? I was judging last year, and I was judging print, where we saw this campaign, and we were blown, absolutely blown, because how is it even possible? And then we did so much research on it. We read about it more than what the case study was, and it was so beautifully put, and one of the best pieces that I've seen.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
I will let the team know this. Thank you.
I love that we're also talking about print, right? It plays such a role globally. I started my career selling newspaper ads at the Chicago Tribune, so print has always held a near and dear place. But unlike print, AI, and Melissa, we were talking, obviously, Ali just gave us that beautiful story and about his work. What role do you see technology playing in the future of marketing and driving creativity and innovation in our work?
I get excited about this question. I am somebody I'm an optimist. I'm positivity as one of my Gallup strength finders, if you know that. So I actually really get excited about what AI can do. I know there's a lot that we need to have guardrails for, but this was a beautiful example of how AI can actually help coach and help God Almighty help our politicians. But in terms of creativity, one of you, I believe it was you that said earlier that AI, that it's a tool. Like AI is a tool. And so if you are a creator, if you're someone that literally, shocker, I am an actress, a minor, like years ago, I've never used it. But if you're somebody that has this creativity, you're a story writer, you graphic designer, all this stuff, and you look at AI as your tool and not somebody that's taking from you, but actually somebody that's giving to you, that is how AI is going to help you. I share this story. My friends and my teammates are here, so it's super cheesy, and so they've heard it like 9,000 times. But when I was in high school, I wrote poetry, and it was so bad. I got published once, and so I stopped doing it because it was super embarrassing, and it was about love and all this stuff. Well, AI has actually allowed me to tap back into writing poetry. I have now 3 poems that I'm super proud of that are my words, my love, my voice, my thought, and without AI, I would never be writing poetry again. So that is just a very small, silly example of how AI is a tool that pulled a creative spot in me that had been closed off for many, many years, although I'm only 21, but many, many years. So
you have so many hobbies. You've lived so many lives in such a short amount of time.
And now
I love
I'm a poet
this.
with
I'm
AI.
so boring.
So I believe that if you take technology as a tool, as a friend, and you stay on top of it, then it's gonna help you succeed, and it's actually gonna draw out that creativity. That's how I believe it can be used.
I love that. I know we're coming to an end, but Tutu, I'd love to get one more question in to you, but we've talked a lot about purpose-driven work here. What role does emotion-driving storytelling play in activating global audience around these complex social issues that all of you on this panel are tackling and have tackled in your work?
I think 2 things come to my head. First is relatability, right? We need to find ways to make sure that individual stories, personalization comes into it. So if you're dealing with complex issues, and I'll use a great example of one I had recently. You want to talk about girl education, for example, right? Finding someone who has a relatable story to share sort of evokes the right level of emotions and gets people to take action, right? So my amazing twins from South Africa shared their story. They were orphaned when they were very young. Their mom died when they were 3, and in South Africa, with gender inequality and all of that, they were raised by their grandmother, but they held on to this Nelson Mandela quote around education. And so they pushed and were resilient, they graduated. These girls are on billboards, they're on front page covers, right? But that's a relatable story. 3-year-old orphan, their mom died. They could have faced a lot of adversity. Now they have a platform where they're supporting other girls in education. They're working with brands to give sanitary pads, right? Give computers so other girls can be educated. That's addressing a social issue. And finding a relatable story with people, right? So that we need to tap a bit more into those kind of communication versus brands or policymakers trying to sort of enforce those things. Find people who have stories that are authentic and relatable and share it. I think the other one that comes to my mind when I think about like addressing complex social issues is our shared values. I live in Nigeria, right? But there are many issues that affect us in one way or the other, right? I feel like if we find those shared values and similar challenges and similar solutions, we can have a common goal, right? And if it sort of evokes the right level of empathy. But I feel one of the key challenges is there's a lot of awareness, but there is no empathy. Like, I know about climate change and I know about all these issues, but I'm like, it doesn't affect me yet. But if there was a bit more emotional storytelling that evokes those universal emotions, like if I could feel fear, or there's something about hope, or just love in one way or the other, it moves me to take action. I want to donate. I want to start a community movement. I want to do something, right? So there's a bit more that has to do with storytelling. And I'm definitely going to go watch Alex, right? On his session, Ali, on his session, where we talk about creativity and action. I feel like storytelling and creativity have to go together. We have to find the right balance to evoke those levels of emotions, and it would address some of these social issues we're talking about. Yeah.
What a beautiful sentiment to end on. You know, we're all coming from different parts of the world, and we all face different, to your point, political, socioeconomic issues, but it's great to do panels like this and realize we are all more connected than maybe we know. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to all of my panelists. It's truly been an honor. And thank you for joining us today.
Excellent moderator.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.